when you're selling on consignment, you don't actually have to worry about that. It's essentially, it's free. You're getting products.
Free inventory to fill up your shelves.
And who doesn't like free stuff, right?
I do. Everyone does.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jared.
Hi, I'm Melinda.
And welcome back to The Secret Life of Inventory. This is a show where we talk about all things inventory. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about consignment inventory. So we're going to talk about what it is, how it works, and how you can start selling on consignment.
Before working in the inventory management space, I didn't know there were so many different ways that you could sell things, but it's been super cool to learn about. And if you're interested in learning more about inventory management and how it affects our modern world, be sure to stay tuned for more. So as always, we like to start with the basics. So could you explain to our listeners what is consignment and how does it work?
Yeah, sure. So a consignment essentially it's been gaining popularity recently. It's like basically a way to sell your products essentially. Mm-hmm. So it's an agreement between two parties. There's a consignor and the consignee. And the way it works is the consignee agrees to sell the products that the consignor supplies to them on their behalf. Mm-hmm. But the ownership of those items actually stays with the consignor. So it's not like a traditional relationship between like a supplier and a retailer where you buy a bunch of things and then you sell them for a markup. You actually don't have to purchase the things up front. You just take them into your possession, but you don't actually have ownership of them. And then you sell them. And at the end, when you sell them, you actually give the percentage of the profit back to the consignor. Right.
What are some examples of popular items that people would sell on consignment?
So I think when people hear consignment, often their minds go like to, secondhand clothing or secondhand items. I think those are the most popular things that are
like
sold
children's
on
clothes?
Yeah, children's. Exactly. Yeah, things that people tend to use
once or like they outgrow.
Yeah, exactly. Weddings, I think most people use them once.
Hopefully only one wedding.
Yeah, I think you should probably get rid of your wedding stuff just in case, just to be safe. You should be holding on to that stuff. But there's also actually like a new and niche products. It's a great way to kind of test out. So those are becoming a lot more popular to sell on consignment.
Okay. How about for like art galleries? Is that?
Yeah, actually, that's a great point. Most art galleries actually sell their products on consignment, right? So they'll approach, an artist, or sometimes an artist will approach them with some pieces and say, hey, are you interested in putting these in your gallery? And they'll put them up on the wall or, on a pedestal, and depending on what type of art it is. And then they'll sell those products for the artist. And if they don't sell them, they just give them back to the artist at the end.
That's a great way to like display their work.
Exactly, yeah. So you don't have to worry about, all the overhead of having a gallery of your own, right?
So what percentage do consignment shops usually take?
So it does vary depending on, a lot of things, mostly your reputation as a brand, right? So if you have a really great brand reputation, chances are that you're going to get a higher percentage, but it usually ranges anywhere between like 20 to 60% of the final sale. So the way it works is the consignee would sell your product. They would give you whatever that price would be. So between 20 to 60 generally. And then they would also give you back any products that they didn't sell. They would just give it back to you, and so no harm, no foul essentially.
Yeah. That's a big range of percentage.
Yeah, it varies wildly. I'm sure it can even go below and above depending on the person. Right, exactly.
Can you provide a real world example of what consignment looks like?
Yeah, of course. Okay, so why don't we take an example of we'll say that this person, they're making artisanal ceramics and they have we'll say a set of mugs, right? And they also have like a vase, right? So let's say that they approach a local ceramic store and they see that the ceramic store has a lot of the same, products that they would carry. Obviously, ceramics. So then they offer to sell, can you sell my items, on consignment? So they agree and they reach some sort of agreement, whatever the percentages is, and all of the fine details are ironed out. And then they decide that the ceramics maker is going to provide the ceramic store with, we'll say, 100 mugs and 100 vases, right? And they have 1 month. They're going to try a month cycle and see whatever sells in that time period, right? So over the course of the month, we'll say that the ceramic store sold, out of the 100 mugs, they sold 80 of the mugs, and they only sold 50 of the vases, right? So they'll give whatever percentage that was, 20 to 60, they'll give that percentage back to the consignor, and obviously whatever inventory that they didn't sell, they'll also give that back to the consignor as well. So I mean, overall, the situation is a win for everyone because the consignor and the consignee both made money out of this. Exactly. The consignee didn't have to worry about what's going to happen now to the stock that they didn't sell. They don't have to worry about carrying it, and they also get a lot of insights into how that product worked, right? Especially for the consignor, right? So the consignor now knows, okay, okay, my mugs sell really well. I sold a lot of those. I sold 80 versus the 50. I think that's what I said. I sold 80 of the mugs and 50 of the vases, right? So it gives them an idea of like, okay, so maybe I should, up the production of my mugs and lower the production of my vases. Or it can also be like, maybe I need to think about the design of my vases, or maybe I need to think about the avenue in which I'm selling them. Maybe I should approach a shop, on a different end of town or something like that.
That's
right?
a good test run for sure.
Yeah, it's a great way to just see how things are going, right? So that's kind of a general example of like how a consignment relationship would work.
So for those who are interested in selling on consignment, what would you say are the advantages?
So there's a lot of advantages actually for both parties. For the consignor, there is the huge advantage of not having to have a store, right?
Yeah.
And obviously there's a huge, expense that comes with leasing any retail space. That's, huge expense.
Yeah, rent is expensive.
Rent is so expensive for everybody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that, the storefront is a big one. And there's a lot of things the other overhead that comes along with that. There's utilities, there's paying employees if you're staffing your place. There's warehousing potentially if you're just have a small shop and you need a secondary location.
Store
So
stuff,
yeah, all the things that come with owning a business or running a business. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is great, There's also just, it's an ability to build your reputation, right? So you don't really have to worry so much about putting all the upfront costs in, but you still get the opportunity to build your name up, right? So people can start to see your products and start to know who you are without actually having any sort of physical location that you're selling them at, right? So that's a huge one, of course. Another great one is it acts as a testing phase, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about, buying huge shipments of things and then potentially not being able to sell any of them. You can kind of order smaller shipments of something. See what works. Exactly. Test it all out. So it's a great way to do that. And the logistics is actually really efficient for consignors as well, because most of the time consignees will handle all of the logistics. They'll
The consignors just give it.
they just kind of
Here you
hand it
go.
over and then they come pick it up and drop off what they don't sell. So you don't have to worry about a lot of like the back end
They
stuff.
just focus on what they're good at.
Exactly. Yeah. You could just, like in the example that we use, the ceramics people, they just worry about making ceramics. They don't have to worry about logistics.
Just be the artist. You don't have to be the business person.
Exactly. They don't have to worry about spreadsheets or anything like that. I have to say something bad about spreadsheets, don't I? Every episode.
Yeah. That's a lot of pros for consignors. How about for the consignees? What are some pros for them?
So for consignees, this is great because, traditional relationship when you're getting new products to sell, you have to go to a supplier, wholesaler generally or distributor or somebody, and you're buying huge shipments, right? So you got to invest the money to buy those things, and then you have to store all of these big shipments of things and all that stuff, So when you're selling on consignment, you don't actually have to worry about that. It's free. You're getting products.
Free inventory to fill up your shelves.
And who doesn't like free stuff, right?
I do. Everyone does.
So you get that free inventory, essentially
Yeah.
free, and then you get paid when you actually sell it. So there's no upfront costs. You have increased cash flow, so you can kind of put more money into like marketing other products and things like that. So it's really great for them. And they also don't have to worry about, ordering more things in. And it's the whole continuously having to worry about the supplier giving you stuff. The consignor is kind of going to just take care of that for you, right? They're going to take care when you start to sell more things, they're going to just send you more, right? So it's going to be easy for you to have to worry about the logistics of that. You don't have to really worry about, having that supplier relationship, well, somewhat a relationship, but not in the same way, of course.
How about the disadvantages? What are some things that consignors should watch out for?
I think, like with anything, there's always going to be some downsides, right? So, of course, there are some things to look out for, higher fees and stuff like that. Well, I shouldn't say fees, but lower profit margins, essentially, right?
Like the 20-60%?
Exactly, right? So when you're selling something wholesale, you tend to make a bit more profit, obviously, because the consignee is going to be taking on a lot of the expenses that you would normally be paying if you were selling these things in more traditional routes, right? So they're going to get a lot more of the profit then because they're taking on the risk and all of that stuff, right?
So upfront business costs that we talked about.
Exactly, yeah. So I think you should think of it maybe when you're selling things on consignment. It's more of like a stepping stone until you can start to sell things wholesale. You can build up. Phase one. Here, try my products out. How are they doing? If they're doing well, you can then transition to start selling wholesale. That way you can, you have more peace of mind. It's better for you, obviously. And then of course with money, there's delay in payment, right? When you're selling things as a supplier or wholesaler, you're getting paid right away, which is great. When you're selling on consignment, you only get paid once the thing is actually sold, so you have to kind of just wait it out, right? And then there's also when you're selling things as a retailer, you get that money immediately. When you're selling things on consignment, while it might be sold, you're not going to get the payment right away, generally
Until the
speaking.
written terms.
Yeah,
Like
so-
a month or.
Exactly. To make things easier, that it tends to be like on a cycle. Maybe every month you get paid out a lump sum rather than getting paid for every single purchase that's made.
It would
So
be hard to keep track if it's every sale.
it would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Total nightmare. So yeah, I mean, it's okay, but it's not great for as far as cash flow is concerned, right? So you can spend money that you have to just kind of wait. So it's a little more
Yeah.
budgeting involved, of course. And then there's like being distanced from your customers, which is a big one. Like if you're not selling products yourself, you don't really have all the same insights and data that you would get when you're selling them on consignment.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes through the retailer. You'll get some insights, hopefully, if you have a good relationship, and you should if you're selling on consignment. But you're not going to have, it's not going to be as a free flow of data and information.
You don't
right?
get to see the customers walk in and like interact with them either. So
Exactly, right?
definitely
And
that
that's a
distance.
big thing to see like how people are interacting with your products and stuff. So yeah, there is that. There's also like the potential of stock being lost or stolen or damaged and things like that. And as a consignor, most of the time you're probably going to be held liable for that stuff unless it's like written into your agreement that they're liable. And most consignees probably won't be signing that into an agreement because the whole point is that they don't have to be liable for things. They
don't worry
don't
about
own
that.
the products, right? So I think for them, it's going to be more difficult to get that into a contract. So there is the potential that you're going to potentially lose things like that, right? And there's also the difficulty of managing inventory. That's what we're here for, right? We're here for the
inventory.
Yeah. It's a little subtle slip in there. But we actually, inFlow is great for consignors because it helps you track that. Because I mean, oftentimes you're not just going and selling your things through one consignee. You'll be selling your stuff through various different, So yeah, keeping track of who has what, how much of they have, it's a nightmare, right? So if you're using things like inFlow, for example,
Technology.
technology. You can actually track multiple different locations, see who has what, how much of that thing they need, can set reorder points so like, oh, when they dip beyond a certain level, you'll get notified
Reorder.
that, get more of the things, get more of the things that you're consigning for sure. So, I mean, that's a great one. There's also, you have a loss of control of how your products are sold. And that is actually really important. It's something that we overlook, but like where your products are located in the store, how they're displayed, what products are displayed next to them. All these things can factor in to how well it sells, right? And when you don't have control over that, things potentially might not sell as well as they could. And there is also something to think about is consignors probably aren't as, motivated to sell your products as you are, right? So they're not going to really worry about marketing it and everything because to them, there's no risk involved. They
It's
can
not
just
their
give
baby.
them.
They care more about their products. They get more money.
They're going to get more money for theirs. Exactly. That's well put. So they're probably going to try and upsell
like
their
the
own
side-
products and be like, hey, that one's okay, but this one, I mean, there is the risk of that. So yeah, it gives you less control over that. So that's a big con for sure.
How about for the consignees or retailers? What are some cons for them?
Yeah, so there's the big one, I guess, would be the lack of the control of the supply. So when you're working with a consignor, the consignee tends to, they're relying completely on the consignor, right? So what they have is going to be completely reliant on what the consignor has. And most of the time, consignors, especially when it comes to like new or niche products, the whole point is to order less so you can test the market, right? So if there's a situation where you're supplying a consignee with, say, a new product and it sells really, really well and people are just buying it like crazy, chances are you probably weren't prepared for that. That's why you're selling it on consignment in the first place, right? True. So there's a big chance that retailer is now going to face stockouts because they can't get what they need from the consignor anymore. And stockouts are never good, right? They're always bad for, your reputation as a retailer and just lost sales in general, right?
Opposite of dead stock.
Yeah, exactly.
Learning.
They're like two ends of the same
Dead stock
coin
and
for
stock
sure.
out.
And then of course their inventory management, that's a big one they're going to have to worry about holding on to that product, storing that product, making sure it doesn't get lost, damaged, stolen, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not liable for it, but they certainly don't want it to
Still don't want to,
happen. So like those things are the big ones that they're going to have to worry about as a consignee.
Yeah, that's a lot to think about. Could you share some tips on how to ensure a seamless relationship between the consignor and the consignee?
Yeah, the biggest one, honestly, is having a clear agreement. It should be ironclad what you
written
decide.
contract?
Big contracts are big. And this thing, it's any relationship, even with supplier and a retailer. You have to have a good relationship and a good agreement. But what is even more important when you're selling on consignment, so you need to iron things out, like, what percentage,
Yeah,
you know,
20
you're-
to 60,
20 to
yeah,
60.
that's a big
Hopefully
difference.
it's more you're getting the 60
Yeah.
than the 20,
Yeah.
the price, who's liable, we
Mm-hmm.
talked about the payment, how often you're getting paid, all that stuff should all be,
Yeah.
talked about. Even things like, how are you going to market it, where are you going to put it in the store, you can include those into your agreement as well, so there is a little more transparency. But
Yeah.
what you put in the contract is essentially up to the two parties, right? But the more you put in it, the better, obviously.
And they can always like review it too, right? And like add things and subtract things based on what's fair for each person.
Exactly. I mean, no one should be signing it unless they're agree upon
Yeah.
it 100%. You make sure you read all the fine print for sure. Another one would be regular inventory checks. So a big thing, I mean, with any business, you want to make sure that whatever is in your system matches what you have on the shelves, right? Just to make sure that you're not going to run into situations where things are getting, lost, or you don't know you're not able to get more things from your consignor because, your system isn't matching what you have on things. So just keeping track of the inventory, doing regular,
Cycle counts.
Cycle counts. Thank you very much. It's like doing regular cycle counts is like a huge thing, I think, for every business. But it is very important for the consignment relationship as well. Another big one would be prompt payments. So we did talk about before getting paid in cycles. Making sure that you get paid in those cycles is really, really, really important, because it can get away from you really quick. If they miss a cycle payment, it can get mixed up, and you
It's just a trust thing too, right? If you get paid on time, then you trust them to
exactly,
do business with
yeah.
them.
It's about reputation for the consignee and the mostly the consignee, because they'll be the one paying out, right? So
Yeah.
it's just a good way to maintain that relationship. And I mean, it becomes a lot more difficult for the consignor if they're not getting paid on time to continue with their business operations, right?
He'll bankrupt.
Well, let's hope not. And then, I mean, this kind of goes down to wrapping it all together is communication and transparency. Having really clear and transparent relationship between the consignor and the consignee is like paramount. It's so, so important, because, when you start siloing information, that's when things can get really, really messy. No one really knows what's going on,
Yeah.
and then, things are going to obviously get really
Yeah, it's like the
bad.
same for like any relationship, whether it's your family, friends, coworkers. Make sure like everything is transparent and you're always communicating.
Yes, see, that's like, I feel like we're in therapy right now. This is great.
Bringing you back to life.
Don't
assume.
It's just life.
Just ask. What would you say are some emerging trends in the consignment industry right now?
The biggest one, and it's something that we see kind of cascades through all different industries, is sustainability. People are becoming more and more eco-friendly, eco-conscious, and it extends into consignment as well. And it's not just, the secondhand aspect of consignment where you're giving products a second life. It goes into even new and niche products as well. Traditionally, when wholesalers or suppliers, they're going to be, they get big shipments, right? They get big shipments, they sell big shipments to a retailer, and the retailer sells, what they can, but there is a chance, especially with new and niche products, that they're not going to sell it all. And then that stuff ends up in landfills, right? So the idea with consignment is you can just have a smaller shipment, put it off, give it to somebody, a retailer, they sell what they can, and then they give you, what they don't sell back. And then you can take that product, and instead of it ending up in a landfill or whatever, you can then go to a different consignee or a retailer and start a new relationship and hopefully sell it there. So there's a lot less waste that's produced.
Less fast fashion.
Yeah, exactly. Fast fashion is the big one.
Yeah, thrifting has become a lot more popular over the years. And I remember seeing a 2021 resale report by ThredUp, and they said that even if you just buy one secondhand piece, then you can reduce the carbon footprint by 82%. So for example, that means if every single consumer bought one secondhand item, it's equal to taking off 76 million cars on the road for a day.
Oh my God.
That's a lot of cars.
That is a ton of cars. I feel like I should only be wearing secondhand clothes. Good thing I wear all of my clothes till it falls off my body. Yeah, so there's actually a lot of like online platforms that are kind of emerging in recent years that are making it more accessible for like anyone to sell on consignment, right? Like you can sell your secondhand items, your clothes, your, workout equipment, toys, whatever it is. You can actually just use these platforms to sell those
Yeah,
things.
I've seen my friends use Poshmark whenever they want to sell items that they don't wear anymore. It's a great way to, like what you said, sell on consignment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, it's a great way to give things a second life and stuff, right? So
instead.
it's becoming more and more accessible to like the everyman too, not just businesses,
Yeah.
I mean, playing into that, there's luxury consignment, which is becoming very popular as well. Because I mean, we all know how expensive luxury items can be.
Thousands and thousands.
Yeah, way too
that
much.
we might not be able to afford.
Yeah, most of us cannot afford.
Yeah,
but
true.
having a luxury consignment model actually makes it a little more affordable for people. And these platforms, they include things like authentications to make sure that you're not getting, knockoffs or anything like that. And it's a way for people to recycle, again, those items that they don't want anymore and kind of give them a second life to someone else. And you can then get into those luxury items at a lower price point. It makes it a lot more accessible. For
I know the
other people.
Real is an example of a really popular online luxury consignment platform.
Oh, very
If you're
cool.
ever interested in buying luxury items.
The shirt's not exactly Gucci, but perhaps I should get some. I mean, there is also, it's something we see a lot with like technology, for example, is resale as a service. It's not exactly consignment, but it's kind of similar in its, vibe of, secondhand things. So, I'm sure you've experienced going into like you're getting a new cell phone and they, offer to buy back your old cell phone, usually give you like,
I think I did
50
it once.
cents or
I think I did it once, and they gave me $20. I'm like, what? I bought it for like almost $1,000, and you only give me $20 back. But okay, fine. I guess I don't need it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great way. It's an easy way to get the credit. You'll probably make more if you sell it on your own, but
That's true.
it's just another example of like brands are actually taking part in the reselling of products and doing these things. Again, it's not exactly consignment, but it is similar.
It's a good way to extend
extend the life cycle of things for sure.
So to wrap things up, what are some key takeaways of consignment?
So I think the key takeaways would be that, consignment is becoming way more popular, right? And the reason for that is, sustainability, being able to test your products in a new market, things like that, where, it's kind of a win-win symbiotic relationship between consignor and consignee. So, I mean, it's a great thing to kind of think about. Again, it's not the perfect business model and it's not right for everyone. And I don't think the longevity of it, if you're looking to be in business long term and sell products, I don't think that it's something that you should strive to just stick with. I think that it should be used kind of
as a stepping stone
into other, for example, if you end up selling something on consignment and it ends up doing really well, there's an opportunity to either sell it wholesale, but you can even think about, maybe opening up a storefront of your own and selling. If you have multiple products that are doing really well, then why
that
not?
confidence boost. It's like, I can do it.
It gives you the peace of mind knowing that you're going to have customers coming into your store, right? So why not open up a shop and sell your products?
Get 100% of the profit.
Exactly. Do the lion's share of the work, get the lion's share of the profit. So those are the big ones, I would say.
Nice. I feel like we covered everything on consignment.
I think so. I think we got it all.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Transition. All right, so that's it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and tuning in to our episode on consignment. If you guys are interested in learning more about inventory management, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Yes, thanks so much for watching. Please comment, like, subscribe, do all of the things. Leave a comment down below of the topics if you have something that you'd like us to cover in a future episode, and we'll make sure we do that. Okay? Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.